It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host John Riley, with his opinions from left field, and we welcome you. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, they can be your best friend. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things that they have to offer. John Riley, how was your great sports weekend? We continue to do our podcast from 2 different locations, my man cave, his castle. So far, so good. We continue to cross our fingers when we do this podcast, and you invoking the old great Army term, no foobar. So far, so good. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Lee, and you sound terrific with a headset mic.
We're going a lot of different directions. We're going to start with baseball, and then we're going to zero and go off on a tangent on a couple of other things. We do this podcast because there's lots of things to talk about. We do sports talk the way it should be done. We do this podcast with a lot of content and then a lot of opinions. But what's different, when we're done, we let you take over this podcast. It's called Fans Forum. John, how does the segment work for everybody that's new on live stream that's never participated? How do they get involved? Ask a question, make a statement, Fans Forum.
Yeah, pick up a phone, pick up a line, pick a topic. This is where you can get involved. Just go on your live chat on Facebook, on X, on YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
Just a couple of other reminders. I write about sports every day of the week on the website. There's the website address right at the top of your screen, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's all written. The best 15 minutes in sports, my one man's opinion column, and because we renovated and redesigned the entire website, it's much more easy to navigate because now we've included all of our videos, and we just started adding back more videos and opinion pieces too. So we want you to check my website, and you can also sample all the past videos from the YouTube channel. Want you to become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group, and it's very easy. There's an orange box right on the bottom of the homepage. Fill it out, get on the email list, because John and I send out 2 emails, newsletters a day to your inbox about the world of sports. It's absolutely free. Want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, every time we put more videos up there, you'll get the ding, ding, ding. You'll get the alerts to that too. And of course, you can help us grow this podcast. We're in our 4th year together, and we're still talking to each other, even though we're not in the same studio right now. But this podcast has exploded. You can help us grow this a great deal by finding the thumbs up button, hit the follow button, give us a 5-star rating on Apple. John, are you ready to talk sports? Because have I got some comments for you?
Lee, I'm about to pull my hair out watching this Padre team. Manny Machado can't swing the stick. You got some solutions for us?
Well, let me just give you a philosophical item first before we bring up graphics. Padre fan, a lot of history with Padre baseball. That includes fire sales, owners with no money, threats to move the franchise, World Series failures. Poor Padre fan in San Diego has experienced a lot. I don't know how this 2026 season is going to end up, John, but I really fear this could be a massive disappointment just based on what we've experienced through the first group of months of the season. Let's talk about the names. Let's talk about the players. Let's talk about the stats, because the scoreboard does not lie. Item 1, what's happened to their superstar, Manny Machado. It's absolutely staggering and stunning, his response to questions in the clubhouse within this last week about the kind of season he's having and what's happened to the Padres. And his comment I am not disappointed. That blows me away. You're not disappointed in a 168 batting average. You're not disappointing hitting 116 since the second week of May. Now, I know he's not disappointed when he collects his paycheck on the 1st and 15th of every month, and a paycheck that next year is going to go to $40 million a season, and they're on the hook for 7 more years of this type of baseball. Why would you ever say I'm not disappointed? He used the term rock bottom. Well, now, rock bottom is the Angels. Rock bottom is the Rockies. But this is gross underachievement. Oh, shame on us. Now he makes the comment, the media is being too negative. No, the media is reporting what's on the scoreboard, and the scoreboard does not lie. And he says, the fans are hitting the panic button. Say what? You got all these sellouts at Petco Park at these exorbitant baseball fan prices, and you're playing sub 500 baseball? The Padres are 17-18 at home this season. One of the worst home records of anybody that's supposed to be a pennant contender. He popped off that there's way too much information, way too much emphasis on analytics. End of the day, you're a ball player. You have to consume some of this information because everybody else in Major League Baseball is. And then the closing comment, can't get much worse than this. I don't know about that comment, because you can lose a hell of a lot more games and maybe be a sub 500 team, which is a far cry from being a pennant contender. Part of me at times says, Manny, just shut your mouth and play ball. Quit trying to rationalize things through your own lens. But I'm shocked at what's happened to him, the ball player, because he kind of looks like he's hit a wall. He kind of looks like he's in decline. And that scoreboard with his name on it does not lie. When you're putting up the kind of god-awful numbers that he's putting up, and for him to say, I'm not disappointed, wow. All of a sudden, this looks like Manny Machado in Baltimore, Manny Machado at Dodger Stadium, where he was not well-liked, and all of a sudden this junk is coming out of his mouth. That's my opinion. Might be right, might be wrong, but I'm entitled to it. John, what say you?
You know, Manny's just trying to be the tough guy. He doesn't want to show any weakness. You know, that's kind of his whole thing, you know, that he's strong, he's got experience, he's going to get through this. I'm worried. I'm worried about this guy because, you know, we've talked about the what's left on his contract, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars that's still left on that deal. And, you know, we knew it's going to be a bad deal kind of near the last couple of years, but this contract could go south in a hurry. Now, Manny normally, when he's being, you know, hound dogged by the press, and by the way, I'm hearing too much people complaining about the media. You know, the media is just reporting it. But in this case, you know, Manny's in front of his locker room. They're sticking a microphone in his face, and he's been very good at keeping it professional and unemotional. But they started kind of, you know, picking him on the data, on the OPS numbers and on the analytics. And then the media kind of broke through a little bit, and we got a little bit more of the real Manny. And that's when he was expressing his frustration. And I got to believe that he's feeling a lot of pain as well as a lot of his teammates. So this is an awful time, but it still doesn't explain. You could say Manny's doing this or Manny's doing that, but it's the whole team isn't hitting. It's so damn confusing.
The thing that's so bothersome about him is the minute you ask him a pointed question, and I've done it multiple times, his response is, where are we going with this? As if like I have some agenda and some finish line. That's not the case. I'm asking about your inability to get around on fastballs. I'm asking about the analytics, about where you are right now. There's no agenda. Scoreboard does not lie. But at the same time, I stopped going to him because it was the same old, same old. Go talk to other players, etc. But for him to say, I'm not disappointed, outside of he and his wife, I don't know anybody else who would subscribe to that. I'm not disappointed in myself. Holy cow. So that's where we are. And John, my God, it's early June And we got June, July, August, and September of this. We've got almost 4 more months of this. And at this point, I don't see any way out of this because I don't see anything that tells me that he's not grown older and can't get around on pitches. To me, it's a big issue. Now, you raise a very valid point. This is not a one-man team. This is a collective failure from top to bottom. And for baseball fans, the Fans Forum chat box is open. You're hitting leadoff. Are you tired of Manny Machado? Are you blaming Manny Machado? Is Manny Machado in denial? Is Manny Machado becoming what he was, condescending, arrogant with the Dodgers, and what he became in Baltimore, way over the top? Fans Forum chat box is open. Hit leadoff. Take one deep. Give us an opinion on Machado. Now we go from that to the other factor in this conversation, John. That scoreboard does not lie. These other guys in this batting order are having miserable seasons too, Lou. Nice headline. Swing and miss Padres. Yeah, I guess that kind of fits it. Machado is, since April 28th, is batting 123. Merrill, who I thought was the next coming of the natural, is hitting 191 since the end of April. Xander Bogaerts has really hit a skid. Average is down to 137. Now, we have seen stretches of time in the last 3 years where Xander would go through a bad dry spell, then get Xander to get hot. Gavin Sheets, look at that number. Batting average in the last 3 weeks, .043. Padres negligible behind home plate. Yes, FERMIN had 2 home runs. That batting average is 139. The career minor leaguer DURAN is hitting .080. You can't have that at the major league level. Before he got hurt, LAUREANO, who's always been streaky, was down cycle at 131. I don't know when we're going to get CRONENWORTH back, but he was hitting 144 before he got hurt. And before they decided to eat the money on the Castellanos contract, he was hitting 178. John, Fernando Tatis has 1 home run in 64 games and has been caught stealing 7 times. And there's no answer because there's really nobody else on the bench that they can put in. The juggling of the lineup has not solved any of the situations. They're a team in trouble. John, they are in last place. They are 30th in virtually every vital analytical statistic there is on offense in Major League Baseball. With a $224 million payroll, we get this. What do you say?
I'm wondering what's going on in the clubhouse. I mean, what is Craig Stammen doing as a manager? Because everyone likes him. He's a friend. He's a teammate. But in the end, I mean, we got to hold these dudes accountable. And if he is like a player's coach, you need a tough guy to be able to get in their face and say, hey, man, let's get this worked up. And I kind of wonder if Stammen is the right kind of guy for that. Imagine if the manager was Albert Pujols. You think we'd have a little bit of a different result, Lee?
Well, we'd have different conversation, that's for certain. You know, one of the things I never understood, and you and I have chatted about this past, the juggling of the lineup. That's what spring training was. We got to opening day, and they had no idea who the leadoff hitter should be and what the mixture beyond the leadoff hitter should be to get to the power bats. And they tried this guy, that guy, every guy, and they, outside of Tatis going back at the top of the batting order, they haven't figured it out. The other thing I never understood, Stammen has openly talked about this game is a grind. It's 162 days. We got to keep guys off their feet, give them some rest. But I never understood guys who suddenly had little hot spells would sit on the bench. Well, he needs a day off. Oh, Christ, it's April and May. They don't need a day off in April and May. You know, here's a prime example. They're desperate for anybody to hit in the infield. And Sun Moon Song goes 4 for 6 in back-to-back starts, and they sit him yesterday. Why are you sitting him? Nobody else in the infield is hitting. Why are you sitting him? Just play the guy till he gets cold. You know, they did the same thing earlier with Sheets when Sheets was hitting home runs and had put together a good chunk of games over a course of a week. Why would you sit the guy? They did it early when LAUREANO was hot. why are you sitting there? So I've got some questions. Look at the makeup of this batting order. You're driving me crazy with these statistics, John. But you're correct. I mean, that phrase at the top, empty stat sheet, the scoreboard does not lie. With apologies to Padre fans, we're just presenting the information with opinions that go with the information of that batting order. You know, Friday night, they ran out a starting lineup. 7 of the guys were hitting under 230. 7. Just absolutely amazing. So, John, shortcomings, what do you think?
This is pathetic. I mean, you know, like we can explain 1 or 2 of these guys, but look at them all, you know, and Sheets is sort of regressing to what he was before we were chanting his name. And Bogaerts, we've always questioned that big contract. Merrill is a shocker, you know, Machado is a shocker. What did you think about Fernando Tatis trying to steal third with 2 outs in the inning? Sometimes they're just getting too aggressive for their own good, Lee.
Well, they're trying to make something happen. I understand that. But he's been thrown out of the bases 7 times. He's 14 for 21. And that's talent. That's potential runs with him on base compared to somebody else. And they've had a lot of guys thrown out at home plate where the third base coach has sent guys down the lines who are lumbering to get picked off at home plate. So there's some things as it relates to how they're running the bases and when they're running that don't make a hell of a lot of sense to me, because they need every potential run right now they can get. Yeah, and their batting average with runners in scoring position is absolutely pathetic too. Okay, I'm going to give you a comment here before we wrap up this Padres segment. Think about this. The Padres, as they open this last of this homestand with Cincinnati, are 33 and 31. Padres go away. They're going to play 16 road games in a 19-game stretch. And wow. they got the Braves and the Dodgers, you know, games coming up too. By July 4th, the season could be over. Period, exclamation point. So here's the other shocker. Padres have 33 wins. Look at the standings, and there's nothing wrong with your eyesight, John. Tampa Bay, which does not spend any money, and nobody cares about Rays baseball. Tampa's got 37 wins. Cleveland, which has a very small payroll historically, but a very good track record of developing players, they got 37 wins. The Blight Sox, who lost 121 games a couple years ago and have been the epitome of bad baseball, they got 34 wins. The Pirates, forever in the second division, they got 34 wins. And the Padres have 33. I mean, how stunning is that? That tiny Tampa, small market Cleveland, the Blight Sox, and the Buccos have more wins than the Padres. Is anybody, aside from me or you, watching this podcast offended by that?
I'm offended. You know, the Padres had the best record in Major League Baseball just a few weeks ago, you know, and you can't hate on Tampa. I mean, those guys have always been able to pull a rabbit out of their hat. But, you know, it's nice to see some of those floundering franchises getting better. But we're going back, Lee, to the same old Padres, man. And it hurts. It really hurts that this team could just never, ever get a break. And now they're just digging their own hole, Lee. I don't know if there's any way out of this.
All I know is, as a closing comment, they are 1-7. They're 2-11. They're 4-13 in this hard skid. And that's your ticket to join us. Fans Forum chat box is open. I want you to pinpoint your opinions. Ask a question, make a statement about what we have just put out there. Don't talk to me about the great giveaways. Don't talk to me about Don and Mud and a great TV broadcast.
Bogey goes boom.
Talk to me about the product on the field. Fans Forum chat box is open for business. That's all things Padre baseball. Now, we go from that. Tidbits, Dodgers, Angels. Go ahead, John.
Freeway series, Lee. Here we go again. Good news, bad news.
Good news. They have figured out Roki Sasaki. His last 4 starts, John, his ERA is now 1.48. He just came off a 10-strikeout outing. Their ability to change his grip on the forkball has been spectacular. This is the Sasaki that we expected. Dude clocked at 100, throwing heat, throwing the splitter, and now he's got the forkball. He was unbelievable in the weekend series against the Angels. Tyler Glasnow, another setback, has been moved to the 60-day disabled list. The Dodgers are in first place by 8 games over the Padres, and they're doing it with no Glasnow and no sighting of Blake Snell and no Edwin Diaz. That's pretty impressive. Meanwhile, there's a horrid story involving the Dodgers and former pitcher Scott Erickson. The story has not really gotten much coverage down here in San Diego. Scott Erickson was a longtime pitcher with the Twins, went to the Dodgers, pitched really well, made a lot of money, retired from baseball. He was involved in an incident with a girlfriend. They were drag racing in Westlake Village in an afternoon. They had been drinking. He went through an intersection. She was trailing him, trying to catch up, went through the same intersection and hit 2 kids crossing the street, killing them both. The woman has been sentenced to 15 years in prison. There were no charges filed against Erickson. The family, though, sued Erickson and the woman. And on Friday, a jury returned a verdict of $176 million in damages against Erickson and this woman for the death of these 2 young boys in Westlake Village. And a second trial was supposed to start today for specific punitive damages. Erickson went public with a statement through his lawyer on Friday that he's destitute. He has no money left. They want to take both of his houses. They want to put the screws to his pension for Major League Baseball, and he's pleading with the judge not to let the second trial go through. This is a horrible story. It's not gotten a lot of coverage down here, which kind of surprises me, involving Scott Erickson. Meanwhile, the Angels salvaged 1 game of the Freeway series with the Dodgers, a weird game on Sunday, but the Angels are just continuing to struggle. You know, on Saturday, Dodgers scored 9 runs in the first inning. That game was over before they came out to take their at-bats in the second inning. Dodgers just totally dominating the Angels this season. At one point, the Dodgers had outscored the Halos in this Freeway series this year 41-5. And I've seen a lot of strange things in baseball. I don't know if you followed what happened yesterday. The Angels have a whole bunch of street free agents playing right now because they have injuries. They have a journeyman second baseman by the name of Nick Madrigal. He came to bat. He had a 12-pitch at-bat, and then he had a 14-pitch at-bat against Emmett Sheehan, and the Dodgers starter completely wilted on the mound. But the Angels are still the Angels. They're still very short of talent, and they're still very deep in last place in the American League. So, John, talk about the Dodgers, talk about the Angels, talk about the tragedy of the Erickson story.
Well, that's a tough story with Erickson. And yeah, he bears some of the blame, but he wasn't the one that ran him over, but still they got to sort that out. And it's a shame. You were saying that he was destitute, and he's made all that money. So he just pissed it away. And it's just awful. But the Dodgers, man, they just, in spite of all the things that go wrong, the Dodgers keep winning. Dodgers. There's one piece of controversy you didn't get into, Lee. What's your take on this whole thing about Blake Trinan not wearing the pride hat, for the Dodgers when they're celebrating, Pride Month at Chavez Ravine?
I agree with you. There's not been a lot of post-conversation to the fact he came out of the bullpen wearing his Dodger cap, not the Dodger pride hat. I don't know whether he's been lectured by the Dodgers. I don't know whether Major League Baseball said that's a uniform violation. I guess part of me says he has a right to his opinion about what he feels, etc. Kind of a strange way to express that opinion. And then he shows up and gets his ass kicked coming out of the bullpen. So, Blake's got a lot of issues to deal with as it relates to the Dodgers in terms of his ability to do his job on a consistent basis. And now he's got to deal with this. And I don't think this was unintentional. I think he did not want to wear the pride hat. And I guess he has a right to have his opinion, but we have a right to critique him for it.
Okay, I'd like to bring up Seinfeld references all the time, but have you ever seen the episode when Kramer and Seinfeld, they went on the AIDS walk, and they tried to make Kramer wear the ribbon? He says, "You must wear the ribbon." He goes, "I don't want to wear the ribbon, and I don't want to wear it because everyone else is wearing it." So that's what makes me think of Blake Trinan in this case. But he's a very religious guy. I get that he objects to this. Hopefully, the gentleman can agree to disagree on the issue, but it makes sense. He's probably going to get dinged for a uniform violation, turn the page, move forward. I'm not ready to, send, Blake Trinan to the seven fires of Dante's, inferno yet. So I think we're all right there. But what's going on with the Angels? Is there any hope? Is there any bright spots with the Angels?
I don't know. Artie Moreno won't know. He doesn't go to the games. The owner of the Angels doesn't sit in the owner's box because he gets attacked, booed, cheered, and jeered by the fans in the upper deck that are singing "Sell the Team," so he does not attend Angel home games. How absurd is that? But there's no solution because it's obvious to me there's no more money in the bank account because they lost their TV contract. They're going with a much lower budget. There's no way to get players unless you're going to make a trade. Mike Trout does not want to waive his no-trade contract at this point in time. So it's just bizarre. It's really a poorly run franchise, and I feel really bad because the media has really turned on Artie Moreno. The Orange County Register, the LA Times, talk show radio has gotten really hostile in the LA market towards the Angels owner. Okay, we go from that. Last baseball topic here, MLB Notebook.
MLB Notebook, we got a bunch of teams in the news, big injury updates.
Big blow here to the Yankees. Aaron Judge has had good streaks and bad streaks, and now he's hurt, and he's going to be out for a long streak. Fractured rib, swinging a bat. He had problems with, they thought it was an oblique, but there was pain in his shoulder, so they did all types of x-rays and scans on his neck and his shoulder, came back and did more, and they found a fracture of the rib, 6 to 8 weeks. That's a huge bat that's out of the lineup. And Giancarlo Stanton is hurt again, and he's on the disabled list. So Cody Bellinger, it's your team. You got to stay hot. That's a big setback for the Yankees. Now they're getting their injured pitchers back, but that's a big setback. Pittsburgh, which has had a really nice start to the season, has lost one of the hot bats in their order. Brandon Lowe, a one-year rental second baseman who came from Tampa Bay, was hitting like 320, dislocated kneecap. He is gone indefinitely. That's a big blow. We always talk about young players going other places and suddenly developing late. We talked about James Outman, the ex-Dodger, who was supposed to be a can't-miss prospect, wound up going to the Minnesota Twins finally. This weekend, he was put on DFA, and nobody's going to claim him. He's only hitting 156, and he has scuffled for 3 straight years to make an impact. He can run like the wind. He plays a great defensive outfield. The kid just can't hit. It takes time. And I think of Outman, and I think of another guy that we know really well from here, took forever. And now Mickey Moniak's become a star with the Colorado Rockies, but it took him 6 years. And Outman just has not been able to turn his career into what Moniak has turned his career into. And the last story, this story just confirmed this morning, John, this was a near tragedy of immense proportions. I don't know if you've seen the video. There was a terrible plane crash in a private Lear jet in the Dominican Republic as it was taking off. It was en route to Texas. The pilot and the co-pilot on this big, expensive Lear jet were killed in a horribly fire explosion. That plane was on its way to Dallas-Fort Worth to pick up Yadier Molina and his family. Molina is a special assistant to the Cardinals general manager. Many people think he's going to be a future manager. He was supposed to get on that plane when it landed in Texas and go back to the Dominican for a week. The plane got off the ground. They tried to make an emergency landing, and it blew up upon impact. It was a horrible crash. Yadier Molina and his family are safe. They were supposed to be on that return flight on that jet. John, your turn.
My turn. I did see that video of that plane crash, and that was scary. I guess just the pilot and co-pilot lost their lives. But It just makes me think of like Roberto Clemente, when he flew to the Central America to help earthquake victims, and there was a small plane crash. Or Thurman Munson. I mean, how many ball players have we lost in small plane crashes? Yadier just missed one, so thank goodness he's safe. It's a bummer about James Outman, because that's like a great baseball name, especially if you're a center fielder. You make the outs, man. But he was such a highly touted prospect with the Dodgers. It's too bad. You guys just put pressure on themselves. But you know what? He'd fit right into the Padres clubhouse. He'd probably have one of the top batting averages on the team, And then, by the way, the Pirates, hey, how about Ryan O'Hearn? Every time I look at your best 15, like every other day, he's getting a big hits, RBIs. I mean, that guy's a dude. I mean, he's a solid player.
Well, he got a lot of money to go to Pittsburgh. Padres obviously did not want to pay him. I think it was 3 years, $45 million. But statistically, he's having a really good year in Pittsburgh. In fact, he and Lowe, I think, are primarily responsible for the season that the Pirates have had, at least at home plate. Paul Skeens obviously has become the ace of the staff, and they're force-feeding a number of the young guys, but they have more wins than the Padres. Did you ever think in my lifetime, in your lifetime, we'd be talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates having more wins than the San Diego Padres? Wow.
Some people thought that the Pirates had a chance to win the NL Central, and I thought they were bananas, and they're playing, in this case, better than we thought.
Well, they are, but Milwaukee's in the division. The Cubs have absolutely collapsed. You got Cincinnati, you got St. Louis, which has been a bit of a surprise in what was supposed to be a big rebuild year. St. Louis early, at least to the first third of the season, has been a bit of a surprise. And what do you think about what happens to the Yankees with no Judge in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge blow. And, imagine having all your hopes pinned on Cody Bellinger, the guy who's like hot or cold. You're never sure what you're going to get. Put the team on the back of Trent Grisham. He'll carry him to the AL East Division title. But I saw the play where Judge got hurt. He was diving for a ball in shallow right, and it didn't look like anything bad happened, but I guess he just tweaked himself, huh? Fractured 6 to 8 weeks, more than just a tweak. That's all things baseball. Feel free, jump on board. I just have to couch this question on the fans forum right now. Baseball fans, you see the Padres record. I just told you about all the other guys, small market, small budget, who have better records than the Padres. Are you offended? Jump on board. Fans forum chat box is open. We go from that. Let's talk NBA basketball, because cannot believe what's going on in the championship series. Here we go to the Mecca, to Madison Square Garden for the NBA Finals.
Everybody's there, including your president, who a lot of people don't think should be there. But at the end of the day, the Knickerbockers lead San Antonio 2-0. Brillo pad basketball. Man, are they grinding on San Antonio. Times Square toughness. Nice catchphrase there, John. Collectively, this team has really come together. It's no longer Captain Clutch. It's no longer just Jalen Brunson. Karl Anthony Towns, in 2 playoff games against San Antonio and Wembanyama, John, has 39 points and 25 rebounds against San Antonio. And he's having one of his best statistical years. And it's just not Brunson and K-A-T. It's the bench. Mitchell Robinson is giving him valuable minutes as the backup center. It's Mikal Bridges hitting 8 straight 3-point shots in the second game. It's Josh Hart coming off the bench and banging boards. It's a journeyman like Jose Alvarado making all kinds of plays coming off the bench. And it's Landry Shamet, who's been with 4 different clubs and all of a sudden finds himself playing very well for Mike Brown. And OJ Anunoby, unsung hero, great defensive specialist. This team has just really come together, and they've won 13 straight NBA playoff games. As for San Antonio, I don't understand why they continue to position Wembanyama out at the 3-point arc in the high post a lot more than down low. I think they should be packing that ball into him and letting him get to the basket, let him get fouls, and then kick the ball out if he has to for 3-point shooters. I just don't understand the methodology of what they're trying to do against the Knickerbockers. And I never thought I'd say this Stephon Castle, the kid that played at UConn for 1 year and has really been a star since he got to San Antonio, he's been out-toughed. He's been mugged. They've really taken him out of his game because his game is penetration and his game is leaning on people and getting turnovers, and instead he's getting shoved all over the court and he's turning the basketball over. They still have firepower. I still think there's more points to come from De'Aaron Fox and Vassell and Harper. But Wemby has been MIA for too many minutes in segments of the first two losses. This, to me, is absolutely stunning. It's only 2 games in, and now the next 2 are at Madison Square Garden. Spike Lee, your president, and people paying $8,000 to sit courtside at that game tonight. John, go ahead.
I'm surprised it's not more than $8,000 for these games. But I don't know, in a weird way, I'm kind of like rooting for the Knicks. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's been 50 years almost since they've gone all the way. So this is it's going to be very entertaining. And to your point, with Trump, and if you say he's going to be courtside, I saw something online. I haven't confirmed this, but New York Mayor Zoran Mondani says he's going to be in the standing room only seats, which are only $1,000. Him with all his working class people, in that expensive Madison Square Garden. It's going to be must-see TV tonight. I need a break from my Padres, so this is definitely something I want to watch. But I want to also tell you this. Over the weekend, I was listening to an interview with Bill Bradley, and talking about all those old Knicks teams and the way that he says he still gets together with Walt Frazier. They're still buds, even though they've lost a few guys from that team. A lot of them are still alive. They're still close. I hope we get to see some of the Knicks great at MSG.
Well, there will, because I think there's a segment down on those courtside seats that you will see Patrick Ewing. You will see some of the other great Knicks of yesteryear, and you'll see Clyde. You can identify Walt Frazier because he'll be wearing the clothing that looks like it's flashing neon lights. Nothing matches, but you'll be able to recognize him. And one of the sad aspects of the ownership of the New York Knicks, owned by James Dolan, who does not have a great track record nor reputation, very bad falling out between the power forward of those great Knick teams of yesteryear, Charles Oakley. He's not welcome at Madison Square Garden because of confrontations with James Dolan, which is really sad. And there's been lawsuits, and players have tried to intervene and tried to solve the dysfunction that exists between the owner and the legendary power forward, but he won't be there. But there'll be a lot of guys. You just need to stand back, look at the TV screen, and if you see somebody walk by with plaids and stripes and looks like neon lights, that's Clyde Frazier.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see Timothy Chalamet and Kylie Jenner and all the other Hollywood stars there as well. But this is going to be fun. I mean, I was kind of in the beginning rooting for the Spurs because of De'Aaron Fox finally getting a shot at the big time. But I don't know. This Knicks story is pretty compelling. Knicks fans are out there in MSG in force out on the streets, too.
And I'll say this. Brunson's a hell of a leader. That nickname, Captain Clutch, that's well-deserved. Okay, you're an NBA fan. Are you shocked at San Antonio and what's happened to them? Are you stunned at how good this Knicks team is? They've come together under Mike Brown. Are you amazed that there is no Oklahoma City, Boston Celtics, who many people thought Detroit were going to be in the finals? Fans Forum chat box is open. NBA fan, your chance to sound off. John, we're not done with basketball because there are some really interesting stories that are just breaking off the floor.
Free agency, trade rumors in the NBA.
And let's start with the Clippers. The NBA's legal firm that's doing the investigation of the salary cap circumvention allegations met with Kawhi Leonard and his uncle, Dennis Robertson, and took depositions on Friday. Now, part of me says this investigation and probe has gone too long. The second part of me, having gone to law class the one day they taught it at Ohio University, the second part of me is they're not bringing Kawhi Leonard in until they have all the information. And that includes the information from the whistleblower at the company that was delivering the checks to Kawhi Leonard. So this investigation is pretty much going to wrap up. And then this legal firm will turn over its findings and its recommendations to Adam Silver, and the commissioner is going to make the determination what they do to the Clippers, what they do to Kawhi Leonard, or is this much ado about nothing because they couldn't find the evidence? But Kawhi and his uncle, Dennis Robertson, who's the man that's behind all this, asking for this, that, and the other, spent all day Friday in depositions with the lawyers representing the NBA. Second story, Lakers. It is being reported from the inner circle covering the Lakers that Austin Reeves has told the Lakers, I'm not giving you a discount. I have a right to opt out and become a free agent, and I have a right to get a max contract. And the max contract would be 5 years, $240 million. That's $47 million per season for Austin Reeves. In addition to not giving them a discount, the Lakers asked LeBron James, would you give us clarification of where you are right now on your decision? Because we got all this money tied up in you in cap space. We want to know if you want to play. Are you going to take a pay cut? Are you willing to play at a different level if we do a sign and trade and send you to a team you want to go to? What do you want to do? At this point, LeBron, no reaction. Third story, Dateline, Oklahoma City. They emphatically deny the report out of Milwaukee. There's a report that Milwaukee has talked to Oklahoma City about a Giannis trade. The asking price is Chet Holmgren and one of your number ones. OKC's got a pile of future draft picks stockpiled. Oklahoma City totally denies they're in the Giannis conversation. In Boston, evidently the conversation has gone off track because Milwaukee has continued to have dialogue about Giannis going to the Celtics, but they've asked for more. Now, initially, it was Jaylen Brown, the superstar guard, and maybe a pick for Giannis. Now the report is Milwaukee wants Brown. Neemias Queta, who's a kid that played out here in the Mountain West Conference, has turned into a very reliable big man, and 2 number ones. And at this point, Boston says, no, we're not doing 4 for 1. And in Miami, which now seems to have the inside track to get Giannis, the price tag on that may be going to 5 for 1. The latest report out of Miami is that Giannis said he'd waive the deal because he wants to go play under the Pat Riley umbrella. But Milwaukee's asking price now is Tyler Hero, the guard, Khalil Ware, the big young center, Jaime Jaquez, the 6th Man of the Year award winner, this year's number 1 lottery pick at 13, and next year's number 1. This turns out to be a 5 for 1 trade from Miami. That's an awful steep price to pay for a 31-year-old guy. I wonder if Pat Riley's going to do that. So, John, there's an awful lot here in my notebook. I just emptied the notebook. Start with the Kawhi meeting and work your way through Austin Reeves and the trades.
Well, the Kawhi meeting, he's got his uncle involved. I'm getting like Sopranos vibes or Breaking Bad vibes about bringing in the uncle, to help you work your way through it. I know he's been sort of like I don't know, is his uncle the agent or is he just the enforcer to make sure that Kawhi's getting paid, Lee?
He is the enforcer.
Okay. All right. Keep on going down the list here. Austin Reeves. Okay. You got to give it up. I mean, a dude has this once in a lifetime opportunity to get max contract, doesn't want to give a discount. Yeah. Hell yeah. These guys should make as much money as they can. It's like the Lakers there's the loyalty is not really a two-way street here. So if these players can get bigger bank elsewhere, go for it, man. That guy, he wasn't even drafted, if I remember. I think he was supposed to be like a 2nd-round pick, and then he refused to sign, told people he wasn't going to sign because he wanted to pick where he landed. So I don't know. Let's give him his due. And by the way, Austin Reeves, who he reminds me of is Cameron, the sidekick to Ferris Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They look exactly the same. The OKC rumors are wild. I know they've got all those draft picks, but I'm getting kind of sick and tired of all this Giannis this, Giannis that, LeBron this, LeBron that. I know you got your notebook full, Lee, but it's like one rumor after another.
Well, it's a very busy time because as soon as they're done with the New York Knicks San Antonio series, we fast forward, we jump from this square, the playoffs, to that square. Here comes the draft, and the square right after that, the start of free agency and trades. So we're going to be talking a lot of hoops going into the summer. You're a basketball fan? You think the Clippers are guilty? Is Kawhi nothing more than greedy? Is he a pawn of his uncle who wants this, that, and the other? even it violates NBA rules. Somebody who's a Clipper fan, Kawhi fan, jump on board. Somebody join us on the Lakers line. Fans Forum chat box is open. We are at halftime. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. And Father's Day is coming. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, this is the great place to go get gifts, to fill out everything on your shelf in the garage or in the basement at DIXIELINE Lumber. John, take it from there. What an all-star lineup.
All-star lineup, yeah, from our friends at DIXIELINE Lumber. You know, you're right. Father's Day is right around the corner. It's the third Sunday of the month. So what a great time to go pick up a gift for dad. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff they've got there. These work benches that you can kind of set up on a job site that got a vise built in. You can kind of clamp down your lumber and then, you know, take care of business there. They got all the hot tools from Milwaukee, from Makita, from DeWalt, and all the big brands. So DIXIELINE Lumber, you know, they're great for the builder and the contractor, but they're also a terrific solution for the homeowner for doors, windows, decking. DIXIELINE Lumber, fix it, build it, and enjoy it.
Go check out everything they have to offer. Just go to the website, DIXIELINE.com. You like sports. You're watching this podcast Mondays and Thursdays. I want you to look at my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I write on it every day of the week. The best 15 minutes in sports, my one man's opinion column. And now, because we redesigned the website, thank God we did that before John decided to redesign his castle, we have a new look website. It's much easier to navigate. Check it out. And over on the lower right-hand side of the homepage, there's an orange box. Fill it out. Become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. When you do that, you'll get 2 newsletters a day. Better than your damn newspaper. I guarantee you that. Absolutely free. So fill it out. Tell your friends. Hacksaw is back. And by the way, with the newly designed website, we put all of our videos from my YouTube channel on the website too, and my KUSI Saturday morning TV sportscast. Think you'll really like that. So sample it all and subscribe. Also want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's very easy to do. And when you do that, you'll get the alerts every time you put additional videos up on the YouTube channel. And help us grow this thing. This thing is exploding. More than 10,000. I haven't checked it in a long time. John does all that. More than 10,000 followers on our podcast on the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Every time you watch something, hit the thumbs up button. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It helps us a great deal. Okay, John, we have covered in depth baseball. We've covered in depth basketball. And for people new to this podcast, when we're done talking about what we think about the big stories, they take over this podcast. There's a chair right here next to me, next to you, Fans Forum. How do the new people get involved in Fans Forum?
Yeah, you got to get involved. You love these people in here. I see some new names. Who's that? Super Ryan Redby. But, you know, Atomic Punk is there. We got David Lee Roth in the house. Mike Chance, Bat Fan, Do You Love It? Carlos, Big John Silva, Matt DeBeast, HB949 Sports, Jeff, John, Casey, Joey, Richard, Callan, Double X Revolution is in the house. Timer 20's always got something to say about Angels baseball. We're going to get you involved in Fans Forum. Just jump on board, get your drop your hot take in the live chat, YouTube, X, or Facebook, and we'll get you involved.
And to quote that age-old axiom on Sports Talk Radio, have a take, don't suck. Jump on board here into Fans Forum. John, let's go to the NFL Notebook. Late-breaking stories everywhere.
Everywhere. We got some coaches making comments, Lee.
Yeah, let's talk about the Rams situation first of all. They're back into their OTAs. Myles Garrett will be an observer. I'll tell you, the dust has not settled on this trade. They're loving it in L.A., and in Cleveland, they're starting to look at it and say, that's all you got? Yeah, I know they got the Rams traded a 1, a 2, a 3, and Jared Verse for Myles Garrett, but that's all you got? Because that number 1 pick is going to be in the 30s. The number 2 pick's probably going to be in the 60s a year from now. Number 3 pick is the number 3 pick. And Jared Verse is going to be a free agent in a year. So now, all of a sudden, in Cleveland, They're not only bitching about the pollution on the Cuyahoga River, they're bitching about you didn't get enough for Myles Garrett. And meanwhile, Sean McVay says at the beginning of the OTAs, the door is open for Aaron Donald to come out of retirement and join the team. And by the way, they do have some cap space. He's not going to come play for minimum wage, so the door is open for Aaron Donald to make the decision if he wants to rejoin the team. That's a big story. New England, A.J. Brown arrives, going through all the workouts with the Patriots, meets with the media. A lot of probing questions about who he was, how he acted in Philadelphia. A.J. Brown tells the media about his critical comments. I did it to make the team better. I did it because the offense was so terrible. I did it because they had to change what they were doing to make us all better. A.J. Brown's comments were, they were not about me. They were about the team. Yikes. Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell responding to some off-the-wall comments from last year's starting quarterback J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy told the media, I'm sitting on the other side of the room in the quarterback room, as if I'm no longer part of it. I'm on the outside looking in. Kevin O'Connell not very happy with that comment. Of course, there's quite a quarterback competition going on in Minnesota right now between Kyler Murray, the refugee from Arizona, and J.J. McCarthy, the number one pick, who had a lot of problems last year with injuries and just didn't play very well. Kevin O'Connell sat and talked to both of them, and then Kevin O'Connell sat and talked to the Twin City media and told them what he told Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. He's told them, you don't have to be friends, you don't have to like each other, but you're going to be really good professionals. And when you're on the field, you're going to be good teammates. And when you're in that locker room and you're in that meeting room, you're going to share the data and information because you work for me. I mean, he was very outspoken. He says, when we practice, it's all about your footwork and your slot of your arm and your reads and your play calls of the line of scrimmage with protection. He told both these guys, you're going to be good teammates, even if you're not good friends. Wow. Interesting story there. Cleveland, Todd Monken. He's always got something to say. He's got a quarterback issue here. Todd Monken on Sunday told reporters in Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders has an aura of confidence nobody in Cleveland has seen yet, saying he is much different right now than he was a year ago when he showed up, when he was on the back end of the depth chart, when he had to play at the end of the season, and when he couldn't move the team and they couldn't win. Saying he looks so different right now, especially with his accuracy in long ball. Now, Deshaun Watson is still taking a preponderance of snaps at the number one quarterback job. Kansas City. You should hear Patrick Mahomes talking about their mini camp, their OTAs, now that Eric Bieniemy is back. Bieniemy, of course, had left. Went to UCLA, did not work out, bounced around, back in Kansas City as offensive coordinator. He has shown up with fire on his breath. He's shown up loud. He's shown up demanding. He's shown up with intensity. He's shown up with accountability on the practice field. Bieniemy is so different than Andy Reid is, and Patrick Mahomes says, this is what we needed. The dateline is Tampa Bay. This is hard to believe. Baker Mayfield, who's thrown 95 touchdown passes in the last 3 seasons for the Bucs, made them a playoff contender. They have yet to talk about a contract upgrade and extension. He's the 16th highest paid quarterback in the league with very little guaranteed money, and that's a shocker. And Mayfield wants a contract extension because I have earned it at this point, and yet they're not making very much progress whatsoever. And the last topic is what came down in the early morning hours today in Lubbock, Texas. A judge in the Brendan Sorsby gambling case gave the Texas Tech quarterback a preliminary injunction that allows him to go back to spring football, practice, and play in 2026. They held a 2-hour hearing on Friday. The judge ruled today that Brendan Sorsby's gambling addiction was a mental health situation, and there would be irreparable harm to his career if he was forced to give up his final year despite the gambling addiction that saw him place 9,000 bets, spend over $90,000 of his NIL money to bet on all types of sporting events, including games that he played in, that would be an injustice to him. And I asked the question, what about the integrity of the NCAA by allowing this guy who broke the bylaw that you can't gamble on games to gamble on games, go to court with an injunction, and get the injunction? Now, we maybe have not heard the end of this, because every time the NCAA has gone back into court and gone to a higher appeals court, they never win. But this, to me, is a shocker. Mental health, great, treat it. But he violated the integrity of the college football game. So, John, those are my opinions. You asked me to co-host this thing. I always told you I would tell you what I thought. Go ahead, start with Texas Tech and then work your way to the top. Start with the Rams and go from there.
Lee Hacksaw Hamilton always bringing it. Got one man's opinion. This Texas Tech story is horrible. And this is why the NCAA needs that antitrust exemption so that they can police their own rather than having to battle in court all the time. You know, someone like Brendan Sorsby should not play. I mean, you've got to have a firm hand when it comes to gambling, and not just in college football, but in all these sports, with the way, you know, all the betting is infiltrating everything. So they've got to be firm. That's very disappointing. Hopefully those guys will get their house in order. But yeah, the Rams, you know, it's just like the Rams always strike gold, and the dog pound in Cleveland is bumming out. You know, they didn't get enough. They're screwed. But I do like hearing the news about, you know, Shedeur, and I'd love to see him have some success. I like the greater confidence that he's bringing into camp. That's all good. I don't really necessarily want to see Deshaun Watson resurrect his career. I'd rather see Shedeur come in there and grab that job and win it, and then bring some flash to them. And then, by the way, I get this image of, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy. It's kind of like Fantasy Island, Ricardo Montalban and Hervé Villachez, those two guys side by side. What do you think, Lee?
Well, one guy is passive and the other guy is ultra aggressive. And I've always known Bieniemy since he was a running back with the Chargers, and he was always on the edge emotionally. And he was that way as a coach. That was his reputation. And when he went to UCLA, when he was hired by Deshaun Foster, I thought this is going to be quite an upgrade, because he is very different in terms of his persona. And it blew up in their face because Deshaun Foster did such a terrible job in recruiting, etc. But so Kansas City it'll be a different personality going back to what they used to be, and Mahomes really likes it. What's your take on Kevin O'Connell's Quarterback 101 lecture?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Connell is a good dude, you know, and I like seeing the maturity, you know, kind of keeping these guys in line. But, you know, he's got to come up with a solution at that quarterback spot. It's been rough going the last few years. I mean, do you think O'Connell is anywhere near the hot seat in Minnesota?
No, because he just got a contract extension and they have a new general manager, but they do have to solve the quarterback situation. But his track record is pretty damn solid in terms of what he did. Obviously, what he did with the one that went to Seattle and won the Super Bowl. I mean, the fact that he resurrected that quarterback who'd been nothing more than a journeyman, and he turned that quarterback into a guy that wound up going to Seattle on a big money contract and got the Seahawks a Super Bowl ring. So I think there's a lot of confidence in Kevin O'Connell. I do believe Murray is going to be the starter, but that's going to be a different Kyler Murray. That is not going to be freelance football. You're going to run the damn system, and we'll design plays for you to scramble and all that, but you're going to run what I call and not do all this freelance stuff, which failed badly in Arizona, and he got hurt doing it by the same token. So I'll be fascinated. And McCarthy is raw. J.J. McCarthy's got, I think, unbelievable physical skills, but he's really unpolished, and then he had injuries on top of it. And there has to be a growth learning curve for him. So we'll just see if Kevin O'Connell puts McCarthy under his thumb and says, these are the boundaries, these are the parameters, this is what I want you to do, just do it. And if he makes a big jump, because there's no doubt he's got great physical talents. Okay, you're an NFL football fan. Anybody got an opinion about this Texas Tech crisis? Mental health over integrity of the game? You're kidding me. Wow. So, Fans Forum chat box is open for football fan to jump on board. Time to peek inside the NHL notebook. Man, there's a lot going on.
Hockey Hotline, farewells to the GMs.
Yeah, two really good general managers have left us this weekend. Cliff Fletcher, legendary general manager, passed away at the age of 90. He built the small market Calgary Flames into a Stanley Cup winner. He built the Toronto Maple Leafs, rebuilt that franchise, got them to the Stanley Cup. The man was known as just a fanatical player personnel trader. When you look at what he did over the course of his career as a general manager in the NHL, think about this. Cliff Fletcher traded for legendary Lanny McDonald that made Calgary great. He traded for Doug Gilmour and Matt Sundin, which made the Maple Leafs really special. He drafted Brett Hull, Theo Fleury, Joe Nieuwendyk out of the Ivy League, Mike Vernon, legendary goaltender with a number of different clubs, all that. And he hired Pat Burns, who was on the outs in Montreal, and made him coach of the Maple Leafs. He hired Bob Johnson, Wisconsin head coach, brought him to Calgary, put him in the Stanley Cup. This guy was superb at his job. Cliff Fletcher passes away at the age of 90. And days after Cliff Fletcher passed, so did Jerry Meehan. He's a former NHL player, became the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres. Anybody from upstate New York? Sample these names. Tell me the influence Jerry Meehan had on making Sabres hockey special. I'm talking about Dominic Hasek, Alexander Mogilny in the Hall of Fame, Dale Hawerchuk, trading for Pat LaFontaine. He was a really good player personnel. Jerry Meehan passed away at the age of 79. Rob Blake, former LA Kings legendary defenseman, former Kings general manager who walked away a year ago, is back in the Nashville. Hired as the vice president of hockey operations, he'll be number 2 in command of the Nashville Predators. Meanwhile, as the Stanley Cup playoffs march on, Las Vegas versus Carolina, so do the trade rumors, because as soon as the NHL playoffs are over, we go to the draft, we go to free agency, and there's a whole bunch of trade rumors out there. The latest is that the Montreal Canadiens have opened trade talks to try to acquire 230-goal scorer Dylan Larkin from the Detroit Red Wings. Price tag would be a number 1 and some other young players. Montreal had the great run till they ran out of gas, but they were very, very young. They want a veteran, and the captain of the Red Wings is asked to be traded. He's got a no-trade clause. Dylan Larkin to Montreal. Think about that. New York Rangers. There's got to be more deals coming. We keep hearing the Rangers are shopping Victor Trocheck, Scandinavian. He only scored 16 goals last year, but this guy's a big sniper. And we hear the Toronto Maple Leafs may have interest in him. And speaking of the Maple Leafs, their general manager, John Chaika, who a lot of people don't like. Anyhow, he's been given the keys to the building to renovate Maple Leaf hockey. John, you've made a lot of travel connections from airports. Follow me on this one. John Chaika flies from Toronto, goes to Scottsdale, Arizona to meet with Austin Matthews, the legendary 60-goal scorer. Matthews commits to stay in Toronto, won't demand a trade. Then he departs from Scottsdale and he flies to Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory in northern Canada and meets face-to-face with the number 1 pick on the NHL draft board, the kid out of Penn State, Gavin McKenna. McKenna is from the Yukon Territory, likely to be the number 1 pick, and the Maple Leafs have the number 1 pick in the draft. And then Chaika gets back on a plane, goes back to Toronto, and interviews ex-Ducks and San Diego Gulls head coach Dallas Eakins, longtime Dallas Stars center ice superstar Joe Pavelski, Chris Knobloch, the fired head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, and Jay Woodcroft, former head coach in Edmonton, currently an assistant who's also in the running for the Kings job, interviews all these guys on consecutive days. Think about that travel itinerary going from Toronto to Arizona to the Yukon territory, back home to do all those interviews. You're a hockey fan? I just filled up your notebook with all my stories. John, you got any responses? Go ahead.
Well, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of frequent flyer miles, but I like guys that are doing business face to face. I mean, it's easy to do it, like we're doing a podcast separate, but I like it when they want to build relationships and you kind of meet them, these players on their own turf. So good on them. It was interesting you going down the laundry list of all of those star players that Cliff Fletcher and Jerry Meehan had signed. I mean, just a lot of rich history in hockey. But let's talk about the Stanley Cup Finals, Lee. I mean, what's the latest news in the finals right now?
Well, they're getting ready now to move on to Game 4. Game 4 will be Tuesday night. Vegas leads Carolina 2-1. And, the game we saw over the weekend was upside down. Vegas jumped to a huge lead. Carolina scored 3 goals in 39 seconds to tie it. Vegas finally won it in overtime. The big question going to tomorrow night's Game 4, where Vegas could take this thing by the throat, is what is Carolina going to do in goal? Because if you think back, hit the reset button. If you think back when you and I talked about the preview of the Stanley Cup Finals, I thought these two teams are carbon copies of each other. They could score, they could skate, they could hit. They both had big guys on defense. To me, the only difference was I didn't think the goaltending was equal. And I really thought Vegas, with Hart in goal, the ex-Flyer, was superior to Frederik Andersen. And Andersen winds up getting pulled in that awful Game 3 when Vegas jumped out to the massive lead. So that's the biggest question is what happens tomorrow night? Do they stick with the backup goaltender who's hardly played at all? It was the first minutes he'd played in a playoff game ever in his life. Do they stick with him, or do they go back to Frederik Andersen, the great veteran, even though he's had some good games, bad games, not just in this series, but up and down performances in some of the prior series. So tomorrow night, Tuesday, wow.
Wow. Finals are all over the place, Lee.
No doubt about it. Okay, that's all things hockey. Hockey Hotline is open. Anybody from the old Canada Network? Wasn't Cliff Fletcher a modern-day icon as it relates to player personnel acquisitions? He was really special. Jump on board, pick something out of the NHL notebook. John, final segment here before we go to Fans Forum. Hot headlines. Oh, we got a lot to talk about.
Is the World Cup finally starting, Lee?
It is. Oh, my goodness. Thursday and Friday. Is it Thursday or Friday yet? Can't come quick enough. Let's talk about Team USA first of all. Mauricio Pochettino's team lost to Germany 2-1. That was a really good game. That was the final friendly in Chicago. 23,000 fans went crazy. Germany scored very early. Veteran team. Really good team. They owned the first 8 minutes of the match, and I thought, they're going to score again. They're going to score again. This stuff will be over. Team USA did not cave in. Team USA came back and tied the game. Team USA, from the 9th minute till about the 65th minute, totally controlled the tempo. Not just Christian Pulisic. Sergino Dest had scoring opportunities. Anthony Robinson had a rocket shot for a goal that got him on the board. They really played well. And the final 35 minutes, Team USA made 9 lineup changes, just put young guys in, and Germany wound up scoring and getting the 2-1 win. But at the end of the game, Mauricio Pochettino met with the national media, and he said, I wanted to see how this side would play with adversity. They were resilient. I wanted to see how they'd play with a character when they faced the pressure from a global icon like Germany. They did very well. I wanted to see when I asked them to make adjustments, what they would do with the ball, moving Pulisic, moving Dest around. They played really well. And he said, these guys are ready for what's going to happen Thursday and Friday when the first round begins. I was very impressed. They look right. They got firepower. Only area I'm concerned, I don't know that they have a true stud in goal. So anyhow, that's Pochettino. That's the soccer story. Mexico plays Thursday in their first round game. Team USA plays Friday in their first round game. This is going to be great. We go from that. Let's talk Formula One racing. Grand Prix of Monaco. Can you believe this kid? 19 years of age. Kimi Antonelli has now won 5 straight F1 races, and he won as the pole sitter on the very tight, very complicated Monaco course yesterday. A race that was marred by wrecks, engine failures, pavement that broke up. They had to red flag the race to fix part of the race course, penalties, screwed up pit stops. He just drove away from everybody. And a lot of the big names fell apart. Max Verstappen's engine faltered at the green light start. He never got off the grid. Done. Leclerc blew an engine. Norris faded badly. Piastri, MIA. This 19-year-old kid has the points championship by the throat. Just amazing. NASCAR, saying goodbye to a great gentleman. Ned Jarrett, legendary driver of the 50s and 60s, became a broadcast, one of the great personalities in the early days of NASCAR on television. Ned Jarrett has passed away at the age of 93. He was the father of the great modern-day driver, Dale Jarrett. Ned Jarrett won 50 races in NASCAR, and that's when they were running moonshiners and swapping paint. He was a hell of a driver, really good broadcaster. He won 2 points championships, and then he was devout. He was devout Christian, devout NASCAR driver, devout to the media, one of the nicest gentlemen I ever met. Good old boy, very classy good old boy. Ned Jarrett passes away at 93. Horse racing, Belmont Stakes. He did it. He did it again. Nobody can believe that this happened again. Remember the Kentucky Derby, where Golden Tempo came from 16th place and dead last and won at the Kentucky Derby? Outran Renegade? Well, here we are, Belmont Stakes up in Saratoga in upstate New York. He did it again. He came from dead last. He was in 9th place coming out of the 4th turn, and he blew by everybody. Golden Tempo, who hadn't won anything in 2 years, wins the Belmont after winning the Derby. Renegade and Commandment finished 2nd and 3rd. And the final is a late-breaking story in the early hours this morning involving LIV Golf. There are reports everywhere that LIV Golf, John, might cancel the 4 season-ending tournaments because nobody's coming, nobody's buying tickets, and they're not paying their vendors. And there's a report, there's a $40 million end-of-season championship in Michigan. That might get postponed or get canceled too. They have unpaid bills everywhere. And John Rahm, who was asked to work with the CEO of LIV to find new corporate sponsorship, is not doing it. DeChambeau is, John Rahm is not. And the theory and the sentiment is Rahm feels betrayed by the PI fund pulling its money, indicating if you miss payments to me, you void my contract, I'm going to leave, and a whole bunch of other guys are going to leave. All of a sudden, LIV looks like it's on its deathbed. Not life support, looks like it's on a deathbed. And if they start canceling what's left of the 4 regular scheduled events or cancel the $40 million end-of-season championship, how can you think there's any legitimacy they could come back and play a year from now? So John, start with soccer and end up with golf. And if you want to visit the horse racing track and talk auto racing, go ahead.
Yeah, Lee, you cover it all in the world of sports. Hey, how about this World Cup is going to be great? I mean, I just remember 1994 when USA hosted, and that was kind of my first really introduction to a World Cup. I hadn't really followed it prior to that one. And so this is just a fantastic tournament. You know, the whole world is involved here. And the USA squad, like Landon Donovan and Alexi Lawless all been saying, this young talent looks really good. That Robinson goal, man, that was like a missile. I mean, that thing was just blasted into the goal. They held their own against Germany, and I'm thinking, hey, the USA, I think, is going to have a respectable performance in this. Hopefully they get to the quarterfinals. That would be fantastic. But, it's just a process to kind of work our way up to be competitive. But I also just like rooting for Team Mexico. Is Team Canada in this thing, Lee? I mean, did they qualify too?
Yeah, they have qualified. They've got some injury problems. Mexico has got a real veteran side. They brought back the Guillermo Ochoa, their goalkeeper, who's 40 years of age. He was not sure he was going to play. He is going to start between the posts for Team Mexico, and they're led by Raul Jimenez, who plays in the English Premier League. He is a great, great player. The one uncertainty, and we've got between now and Friday, and we'll know by the time we do our Thursday podcast, is whether or not Chris Richards, who's one of their top defenders, is going to be able to play. He suffered ankle ligament damage in the English Premier League right at the end of the season. I think he plays for Crystal Palace and has not practiced. They don't know whether he's going to be good to go. They're hoping. He's a big difference maker on the back end and in front of the box, in front of the keeper. So that's the only thing. But Team USA just looks like they've got so much firepower, and the way they play and how they bring the ball out of their own zone across midfield is just amazing. So I am really amped for Friday's first game just to see how they hold up against Paraguay. And Paraguay's a pretty good side. So this will be very interesting to see. You want to talk about horse racing or auto racing or golf? Go ahead.
I'll just say this on golf is that the sooner Live Golf goes away and we get all the stars in the PGA, the sooner that happens, the better. And it's, it's a shame to see him kind of circling the drain, but, we got to bring the boys back. Let's get these, the stars here in America.
And if you're running down Interstate 15 and somebody blows by you and you can't believe how fast they're going, that's probably Kimmo Antonelli. That kid's doing that at age 19. I can't believe this.
Yeah, I mean, when I was building these graphics, Lee, and I was getting pictures of Antonelli, I thought he looked like a high school kid, and I mean, so good on him for having great success out there on the track, and you're talking about the Monaco Grand Prix, which was over the weekend. Do they still race at Le Mans? Is that still a thing?
Oh, yeah, 24 hours of Le Mans. It's different now because Formula One has grown so much. And obviously, NASCAR's become an institution here, and we still have the Indy 500. But road racing and the 24 hours of Le Mans, it doesn't have the global impact now that it did in the past. But, speaking of that, have you ever seen the movie Ford and Ferrari? You got to see
awesome.
that. Oh, just great.
It's awesome.
And of course, the other late movie that just came out this past year with Brad Pitt, F1. It's very different than Ford and Ferrari, but it's great. Okay, those are topics on the table. We do sports talk the way it should be done. I put a lot of topics on the table. We give you opinions. I'm biased. I think this is a hellacious podcast that we do in terms of information. And now we cap it off because we let you take over. It's time for you to shine. Fans Forum. And John, again, for people who watching the back end of this podcast, how do they jump into Fans Forum? Let's go from there.
Yeah, jump on board. Get in the live chat, Facebook, X, YouTube. I see all of our friends out there. A lot of new names today, too. Let's get involved in Fans Forum.
Okay, podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations to serve you. Don't forget, Father's Day, great gift idea. DIXIELINE gift cards. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things they have to offer. I'm ready. I told you what I think. Let's see what these people have to say. John, go ahead.
All right, let's kick it off with Teamer. Lee, do you see the guy flying the airplane and the sign said, Artie Moreno, sell the team?
Nasty environment at the Big A, Teamer. Nasty environment. And the fact that he's gone underground and he's not even going to the home games. What a sad commentary. I wish baseball could do an intervention and help solve this situation, because I happen to think, and I spent a lot of time in Orange County when I was doing sports talk. We'd take my talk show from San Diego and we would do it at Angel Stadium, and they were great to deal with in the Mike Scioscia era. And I got along great with Bill Stoneman. And obviously I like Artie Moreno, and I had a very good relationship with Artie Moreno early on. But at this point in time, look at what the product has become. because of the negligence and the decisions of the owners. This can't be allowed to go on. And Orange County could be such a great marketplace unto itself. I wish baseball could do an intervention and either help him get the right people or barter a transaction where somebody else comes in to buy it. Because, John, I don't think this can just go on forever.
You know, it reminds me of when the Chargers were playing in Carson, and there was some Yahoo that bought a plane and a banner, and it was like, sell the team, Dean Spanos. So I like it when fans just are really, you know, have a message to deliver. But you know what's interesting is, you talked about this in the best 15, that there was a catcher that went from the Giants to the Angels. And this article I was reading was talking about the pipeline between these two teams. The brothers, the two GMs are brothers of the Angels and the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's just taking a guy who had been DFA'd in the minor leagues and bringing him into my minor league organization. Not a difference maker at all. But they've got so many roster problems and so many injury issues there, and they have one of the worst farm systems in all of baseball. So I just don't know how you can continue to operate this franchise in this atmosphere the way you're operating and think this is okay way to do business. Because to me, it's not. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's go to Richard. Hey, Fans Forum. Hey, new ownership needs to grow a pair out of the gate. Rip the Band-Aid off and dump the suffocating Padres contract. Just eat the whole thing. The days of AJ pushing his chips all in are over.
I always wondered, and I have great regard for AJ Preller, his creativeness, the fact that he works so hard. But at the end of the day, I'm wondering if he's losing the community. I wonder if the community is tired of the way they're doing business, because they don't see the end results. We've not been to a World Series. Have we seen 5 years of great baseball, Petco? Yes. Is it an entertainment venue? Yes. Is it the place to go, destination point? Yes. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing right now, to me, is a horrific downturn in the fortunes of the franchise. And now you've got old players, aging contracts that go out. I mean, I think 7 more years of Machado and Bogaerts, and obviously what they still owe Yu Darvish and what they're on the hook for with everybody. So has AJ's leadership run its course? I mean, that's a question I think I'd like to hear from more on the fans. I don't know how they get out of this, because I don't see these guys bouncing back. They have a fractured starting rotation. They've obviously got a lot of guys that are having very poor offensive seasons. You have a new manager, new coaches with zero experience. It's just the environment to me at Petco Park right now on the field is not very good. Do you think the community's lost its faith in AJ Preller?
They still keep showing up, Lee. I mean, I'm just amazed watching the fans at Petco filling up that joint, and you kind of wonder. I mean, because like, AJ can't trade one of those big contracts unless he's willing to, eat all that money, or, he doesn't have a ton of prospects he can throw in the deal, to sweeten the pot so someone will take over the Machado contract or the Bogaerts contract, so in the end, I just wonder if this owner maybe is having a little bit of, second thoughts, maybe a little misgivings. Because if AJ comes to the new owner and says, hey, man, we got to overhaul this thing, and I need you to buy out the remaining 7 years of Machado's contract, I mean, that's going to be a tough sell.
Oh, I think it's impossible. I don't think he could ever do that. He could go to the new ownership whenever this is finally approved. And I don't think the Feliciano ownership group is having any second thoughts. This thing just takes time to get vetted. But he could go to them and say, we really need to bump this up to make an acquisition. And maybe not via trade, because to get somebody of significance now means they're going to ask for Salas, the catcher at AA, who's having a really good season. You don't want to do that. But what you do is you philosophically say, let's bump this roster up in the offseason. Now, that's going to push him into a third tier in terms of the luxury tax, etc. But then again, we don't know what next year is going to look like in terms of luxury tax. That could all change too. So I would think a year from today, this may be a much different operation because maybe the rules as it relates to payroll are going to be different in terms of luxury tax. I don't think we're going to have a salary cap, and I'm not a salary cap guy, but I think the structure is going to change in baseball. Maybe new ownership will give them more money, and maybe there won't be a luxury tax that starts at $244 million. Maybe it'll be $300 million. Well, if that's the case, new owner could come in and give him $60 million more to reconfigure the roster. Does that make any sense?
Well, it's easy to spend someone else's money, Lee. I'll tell you that. But here it's the people have been talking about the Padres as sort of the model franchise, in this new collective bargaining agreement negotiation. Hey, why aren't the Marlins like the Padres? Why aren't the Twins like the Padres? But the Padres are not looking good right now. I mean, it looks like they've kind of screwed the pooch here.
Well, their colors are brown and gold and red ink. I mean, and I wrote a column last week, and we talked about it last week. If you recall, Bruce Meyer said everybody should be like the Padres. Well, this has not worked out well for the Padres. This franchise is being sold because what the greatness of Peter Seidler's vision was not sustainable. I mean, they have a mountain of debt this new owner is going to inherit as he operates this franchise. So that methodology that Tampa can do it or Pittsburgh should do it or the Twins, that doesn't make any common sense because what the greatness that Peter Seidler tried to do was not really sustainable. And the whole revenue share package and all the money that's distributed, that's going to change, which is going to make better for a lot of teams, including San Diego. But tough situation right now. So you didn't answer my question, but I'll throw it back at you. Do you think the community's losing confidence in Preller's blueprint?
Yeah. I mean, I think people are just so fed up right now, Lee. They're just beyond frustrated that this team is just terrible. So, yeah, I think at some point here, the AJ's going to be on the hot seat.
Okay, we move on. Thank you for the input. And we gave you a long answer there. Go ahead. Next one. Let's
go to Music to My Ears. Thanks for the donation. Hey, in 1994, I paid $55 for World Cup tickets. Are we the land of the free or the land of charge us extra because we're dumb enough to pay? Sports events are expensive. Okay, but this World Cup is sickening.
Keep an eye on your TV set Thursday and Friday, especially with the marquee games. Keep an eye and see how many empty seats there are, whether they make reference in the broadcast to how many empty seats are at SoFi Stadium, whether they talk about the Meadowlands, empty seats there, because the prices are very much over the top. FIFA's response is, well, the market will tell us whether or not we charge too much, but we're charging what we want to charge right now. So we'll see if this turns out to be a boondoggle, if this turns out to be real embarrassment for FIFA. The general consensus is FIFA's corrupt, and FIFA is doing this as nothing more than a money grab. And, and then this is all complicated by every other factor. I happen to think, in all honesty, music to your ears, I happen to think the matches are going to be great because this is great talent. I happen to think this is going to be a fiasco because you've got empty seats, the rage over ticket prices, you've got the crisis with the team Iran, you've got obviously Trump, the threat that ICE is going to show up at these stadiums and create a ruckus, and you got the whole atmosphere that FIFA has allowed to exist, that we're going to do it our way because we have every right to make every dollar we can. So off the field, off the pitch, I think there's a whole pile of things you're going to keep an eye on. Make sense, John?
You are always slamming money grabs, man. Someone's got to pay these guys, Now, granted, FIFA is kind of a little bit greasy, in the way they do business. But, $55 back in 1994, that's a lot of money, to go see one of those games back then. So, but, this is everywhere. I mean, look at this price of tickets in Madison Square Garden tonight for the Spurs and Knicks. I mean, even like one of my favorite rock bands just got back together, Rush, and their ticket prices are really expensive. So we have a K-shaped economy, Lee. There's people with a lot of money, and they're willing to spend it, and it is supply and demand. There's only a limited number of these seats. But I think FIFA, they kind of bit off too much. They may have overestimated what their value is in America.
This will be ugly because a columnist around the country are standing there ready to write about this pillage of people's pocketbooks. This will be very interesting to see how many empty seats there are. And obviously, going towards the finals games, the championship games at the Meadowlands, where the prices are just absolutely outrageous. $10,000 per ticket. And they've changed the price structure multiple times too. FIFA's got a huge credibility problem. Sport's great. Leadership is not, my opinion. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go to MM Forever. Thank you for the donation. Hey, who's LA's NFL team? The 49ers or the Raiders? Because it's definitely not the Rams or the Bolts.
No, it's going to be the Rams. Definitely going to be the Rams. The Rams are in the Super Bowl run this year. Now, you can be an old-time Raider fan, but I don't know very many people, in all honesty, that think that this franchise has any credibility. Oh, yeah, John Elway is Tom Brady. You know, they've had interest in being involved, and Brady's helping call shots, and Mark Davis promise you, we fixed it. We fixed it with this hire. You haven't done crap. I mean, look at the composite record since 2002. So anybody that is a Raider fan, to me, is living in the past, and that's the only thing they're grasping. You know, that plus wearing the logo. 49ers, phenomenal run, but they are not Bill Walsh. They are not George Seifert. This is a very different team right now. They have their fans, sure, but neither the Raiders nor the 49ers are LA's team. Right now, LA's team might be going back to the Super Bowl, which is the Rams, and the Chargers, with a very vibrant young quarterback, they're on the periphery of interest. And I don't see any way of that, because that team hasn't won a playoff game yet. And that team is owned by people who are only concerned about putting money in their pocket. And that, at the end of the day, the Spanos family had something really special here, and they turned their back on 55 years of loyalty. And at the end of the day, Kroenke has nothing but a track record of success. You know, building stadiums, owning teams, you know, Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche, championship trophies, facilities that he's paid for and built. SoFi Stadium, he owned it. He paid for it. That's quite a track record of success. So who's LA's team? It'll probably be the Rams. I guess the bigger question, who's the real team in LA? Well, it's got to be the Dodgers, it's got to be the Lakers. But the Rams are right there knocking at the door. John, agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the Rams more so than the Chargers. I mean, but still, 49er fans fill up SoFi Stadium. I mean, you see all the red jerseys there. You know, it's something else, the way they come down from the Bay Area. But you're right. I mean, when I think of LA sports, it's Dodgers, Lakers, and then there's a huge gap, and then there's everybody else. I mean, for a little while, Trojan football was maybe number 3 in town. But it's just weird how there's so many teams up in the Southland up there in LA, and how they're not really taking all that. There's not a lot of excitement around a lot of them. I mean, I was listening to a national broadcast in sports talk, and they were talking about how if the Chargers won, like, would anyone care? It's sad.
Yeah. Again, you got long-standing tradition. Lakers have won. What do they got? 18 banners? How many World Series championships have the Dodgers claimed? So you got that. And then there's a drop-off. You know, I think to me the most stunning thing is the fact that UCLA and USC have just kind of disappeared, you know, off the radar in the Los Angeles market. It's like nobody pays attention to them at all. So that's fascinating. Good question. Good comment. Thanks for being with us, Arm. Go ahead, John, next one.
Okay, let's go to new guy Joey, because I always didn't trust Manny.
Period, exclamation point. At this point in time, it sure looks like he's gone back to being who he was in Baltimore, and he was not loved in Baltimore. And he had the short stay with the Dodgers, and that ended up kind of badly. So all that baggage kind of preceded him here, and he did very well. He's done very well for a whole chunk of years. And at times it looked like he was going to be a very different person. But boy, he's reverted back to being a very different citizen in that clubhouse this year. And these numbers are staggering. For a guy making that amount of money with that track record of hitting 168, that's 168 on the season, 123 since the second week in May. That's just unbelievable. And then for him to say, I'm not disappointed in myself. Holy cow. Is that arrogance? Is that condescending? So Always didn't trust Manny? Yes, probably a lot of people sign your memo, Joe. John?
There's a lot of people commenting on Manny. Let's go to Carlos. Manny Machado is doing his best Trump impersonation and defiantly pushing back on his low metric scores and numbers. The Padres are stuck with those god-awful contracts of Machado and Bogaerts. Yikes.
Bogaerts is a good guy. Bogaerts has been streaky. He was streaky in Boston. He was streaky here. He's always bounced back. We'll see if there's a bounce back coming there from him. But Manny's numbers are really, really horrid. At the end of the day, I think we have to put this all at the front door of A.J. Preller. And is the community going to respond? Is the community going to point its finger at Preller and say, you caused this. This is your flagship team. These are all your players, all your contracts, all your decision. Is there going to be a revolt against Preller's leadership? And will ownership say, maybe we need to reevaluate who the decision maker is? Even though they just gave him a contract extension, I think, for 3 more years, maybe Feliciano comes in if this turns out to really be a down cycle season. And they'll look at the general manager who's made all the baseball decisions and hold him accountable. I'm not calling for heads, but I'm saying this scoreboard does not lie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's typical when new ownership comes in that they're going to want to put in place their own guys, their own management team, guys they trust, guys that have similar ways of thinking, that understand the strategy that the owner wants to put forward. And AJ was, Seidler's guy, and Fowler's guy. But especially Seidler. So it makes you wonder, to your point, what's next for him. But there's even more Manny talk here, Lee. Let's get the atomic punk, David Lee Roth. Manny offered the Pod fans with what they expect too much. Well, when you spend that much hard-earned money and your team stinks like the color of the uniform, what do you expect?
Yeah, and then he responds the way he responds. And I've seen this because I've been in that clubhouse for a whole chunk of years. And he's doing the exact same thing now that he did when he first got here and that he did in Baltimore, which really bothered a lot of people, offended a lot of people. He's not, this is a great player, but at this point, this player is not playing with greatness any longer, and he's flipping back to the way he used to act. And that to me is a terrible, terrible turnoff. So, if I'm a working member of the media at this point down there, I don't need to hear from him. I'll go talk to somebody else. Because it's the same old, same old, same old. And by the way, speaking of guys in clubhouses, did you see Mr. Me, Myself, and I over the weekend? Juan Soto? Do you see the slog running the bases, not running the bases, not working hard, going 1 for 10 in the series? Your guy.
That guy, he's trouble. As it was, that was a ground ball. I think Song might have bobbled it a little bit, and Soto could have beaten it out, but then he was just dogging it on down the line. So that guy's too much.
And he gets thrown out on the bases, killing a rally.
Yeah,
nice
Soto.
Nice $765 million investment there, correct?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Let's go here to sports fan. This is, I think, a great question. Hey, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and John, did you go to broadcasting college, or were you born with sportscasting?
Well, I went to university to be a sports writer. I came out of a sports and journalism family. My father pitched for the A's. My uncle was a sports writer, covered the old Brooklyn Dodgers, and was a very famous World War II correspondent. So this was my DNA, and I wanted to be a newspaper writer. And I got to university. I went to a school, had majored in communications, but I actually started as a J major, John, and I just kind of turned right at the first red light and went into broadcasting, and I really liked it. And I got hooked up with a guy from Cleveland who was the greatest influence in my life, legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster Joe Tate, to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Cleveland Indians, and he influenced me more than anybody else in broadcasting, and that's where my career went. So I've been doing this. Think about this, John. I've been doing this job since I was 18 years of age. I started working in commercial radio in Appalachia while I was going to university. And I was a program director at age 21 of an AM/FM station. And I started doing play-by-play at age 20, doing high school sports. And I wound up in the NFL, wound up in the World Hockey Association, and wound up doing sports talk shows. And I'm with you. So That's my back.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's my background. But I've been doing this forever. So in a sense, I guess I'm very blessed and very lucky that I've had opportunities, and I've fought back from an absolute ton of adversity in my career. Just continue to be where I am, doing what I am, and I think is a very very, very positive aura. So I have virtually no regrets whatsoever. But that's the blueprint. I wanted to be a sports writer, and see, I was spoiled, John, because I grew up in New York, where I get to see all these games on black and white TV. I grew up in New York, where they had 9 daily newspapers, and my dad used to bring newspapers home when he was on the train, and I'd get to read the sports sections, which was kind of cool. And I said, this is what I want to be, and that's what I became, and then shifted gears and went off. And now I'm doing podcasts, writing unbelievable amounts every day, and I do TV on the side at KUSI every Saturday morning. And you ought to check that out. Check out my TV sportscast, because they're now on our website. We put on the YouTube channel my KUSI sports segment. So you'll have to give me a letter grade on that, because John, I've been doing this forever. Now, how did you veer into doing this?
Well, first of all, I want to just say this, is that when they write the history of sports talk radio, you're a huge part of that. And I've listened to you from the late 80s all the way through on 690, 1090, big fan of you and all the other talent on those stations. And all the time I used to think to myself, maybe I could do that someday. And it's like that Seinfeld episode where they kind of agreed that, only the ex-players are usually the ones that get those opportunities. But you approached it from the journalism point of view, and that's what was your lead in. And your writing is still excellent. Now, I dabbled a little. I was the PA announcer for the UC San Diego Tritons basketball team in the arena way back in the 80s. I mean, does that count? I don't know.
Sure.
I've done play-by-play for Poway High School baseball. But in the late 2010s, 2018, I started my own podcast. It's called the John Riley Project, where I was mostly interviewing like local political candidates here in my hometown of Poway, and mostly talking about politics and culture and society, and a little sports. But then I did an episode all about the demise of the 1090, where the whole radio station finally imploded. And then as a result, Jerry Donadio saw it. He knew you. He connected the two of us, and now we've been doing this for 4 years. Crazy.
We all come from somewhere. Well, thank you for the compliment. Sample the website. Look at some of the historic videos that we've posted on there. I think you get a great kick out of it. And because this is all free, and we spend a lot of time on this podcast in terms of prep and all that, because this is all free, we don't charge you, except we demand that you give us a thumbs up, you hit the follow button, and you give us a 5-star rating on Apple. That's the only thing you have to do on our behalf. Make sure you tell everybody in your address book, Hacksaw's Back with John Riley in tow, Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Okay, that's who we are. That's where we came from.
Okay, let's talk some Rams football with SoCal Rams 74. Hey, time to grab the VHS tapes to watch that last Super Bowl win.
Well, they're really good. And when you think how close they came to getting it done last year, Seattle, how close they came to getting it done in the snow, Philadelphia, 2 years ago. I mean, this thing is about as close to being dynasty as you can be without being a dynasty. And this Myles Garrett trade is really bold. And I just think that this is a really well-run franchise. And this leadership in terms of player personnel, I mean, anybody can trade all your draft picks away and just get veteran players. But they not only make good trades, what draft picks they keep, they hit the jackpot on. I mean, this whole defense has been built around 2 or 3 years worth of really good young draft picks. So I think Les Snead is one of the really unheralded player personnel guys in the NFL. And of course, McVay is a mad scientist in terms of coaching X's and O's and how the players view him.
Yeah, very impressive. F those draft picks, Lee. Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, here's a new name, Godzilla versus Megalon. Hey, UCLA college baseball, what happened, Lee?
Same thing that happened to USC. Both of them out. Neither one gets to Omaha. Ran out of gas. Ran out of pitching. It's the only glitch that bothers me about the NCAA regionals is you got to have a lot of arms because you're going to probably go through a lot of arms, and that's exactly what happened. UCLA, I mean, they're going to have the number 1 draft pick. This star shortstop's going to be the number 1 pick, probably goes to the White Sox. But you got to be deep in pitching, and I don't know that anybody's deep enough in pitching to be able to stand up to play 4 games in 3 days in the regionals, and that's what happens, especially if you wind up getting knocked into the losers bracket. Well, I read a tidbit this morning about Southern Cal, because Southern Cal qualified and got knocked out in the next round of the regionals. USC's starting pitcher threw 133 pitches in 48 hours. Now that's way over the top, but you got this ace, and he's the one that's gotten you there, and you're staying with him. Hope you can squeeze more innings out of him. But 133 pitches in 48 hours, to me, that's way too much. It's just a byproduct of what college baseball is. You need arms. You need lots of arms. Nobody's got lots of arms.
Yeah, it's like a travel coach, that's gone crazy, pitching his guys too long. But you know who else has made a really nice run in this was Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Yep.
You got to give those guys credit. They got to the super regionals. They got blown out in their last game against West Virginia. But, Cal Poly, man, that's where Ozzie Smith went to school. And wasn't John Madden there too back in the day?
Yes. Bobby Beathard. Yeah. Cal Poly San Luis, very good athletic program way back in the day. Very different era, obviously. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's get another new name involved. This is Super Saiyan Redby. Hey, I'm excited. The World Cup of Football starts in the United States in a few days.
I'm going to be so intrigued to see if all the young players that Team USA has developed will take that next step forward. I mean, we've seen Pulisic grow from an 18-year-old to a 22-year-old to a 25-year-old, and he's a very good soccer player. But I'm going to be interested to see now if Balogun can become a sniper, because he has shown flashes. He had 19 goals this year at AC Monaco. This guy can score. Can he do it at the global level? What happens with Pepe? Pepe is unbelievably athletic and very skilled at making razor-sharp passes. Can Pepe get the ball in the box to Pulisic for those blasts? Obviously, Sergino Dest, he had a great game against Germany. I mean, he scored, he had setups. He got robbed on a couple of very close-in shots. So they've got 5 or 6 guys with firepower up front, and obviously the back end with Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson. A little bit concerned, is Matt Turner going to be the right guy in goal? Because Matt Turner's not equal to Tim Howard. He's not equal to the great goaltenders of the past. So we're going to have to pay a little bit of attention to that. But can the kids, alongside Pulisic, can those kids take this next step and become forces for 90 minutes offensively? Because you got to score goals, I think, if you're going to move on to get out of the group and get to the round of 16. Make sense?
It does. And this is going to be a great tournament. I know all the celebrities are going to be out there. People are performing at some of these events, and I think it's going to be great. And I love the fact that it's a bigger tournament with 48 teams. So we're going to see a lot of nations we've never seen before. And I remember, gosh, this was a long time ago, but my wife and I were in Costa Rica one year, and it was during one of those CONCACAF tournaments, and Costa Rica was going deep in the tournament. The whole city in this little beach town in Costa Rica were all in the local bars rooting on their team. So for these small nations, this means everything for them. And I think it's going to be a terrific run. I'm curious to see if Messi is still the star. Does he still got it? Who are going to be the heroes, the faces of this tournament?
Well, follow my one man's opinion columns this week on my website, because I'm going to be writing specifics about Team USA, about Team Mexico, and then about some of the stars. It's great. And, I was not brought up in a soccer environment. It took me time to learn, but the light bulb went on in my life, and I realized, John, this is the creme de la creme of the sport globally. Yeah. You may not be excited about a 1-0 verdict, or you may think a 2-2 tie or a 1-0 game is not exciting. You see the skill level of these guys, and how they make passes and where they run to and how hard they play and the tackles they made and what the keepers do. John, this is the epitome of greatness, and we're going to see greatness starting Thursday and Friday.
Hell yeah. Yeah, here we go. Hey, let's talk some NBA with Mike. And he goes, hey, guys, do you think my OKC Thunder will need a roster adjustment to counter the San Antonio Spurs for next season? You know, Chet Holmgren, et cetera. And did Coach Daigneault have what it takes to win over the Spurs?
Well, keep in mind the intangible thing that happened. They were down 2 players. They were down 2 scorers. They were down 29 points a game when they lost Jalen Williams, and then they lost the other shooter. That was 29 points they did not have the last group of games. So all they need is to get health back. They've got a contract decision they got to make on Hartenstein as it relates to there's a big money option there. Do they do that, or do they ask him to restructure down? But they've got so many draft picks because Sam Presti is such a great general manager in terms of player personnel acquisitions. They could package picks and go get somebody's veteran plug-in player, but they're right there. I'm shocked that they didn't make it, but those 2 injuries really set them back a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they're not in the finals. I mean, you were talking about an OKC dynasty.
Yep.
But isn't it crazy that Oklahoma City is like one of the top teams in the NBA? It's nuts. But this finals tonight, game 3 at the Garden, I mean, this is going to be wild. I mean, it's been a long time. What was the last time the Knicks were in the finals was probably when Pat Riley was coaching, right?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know. Was it in the 90s? Or when was the last time they won a championship? Was that 77? That was the Willis Reed era?
No.
Maybe
73
because with Pat
and
Ewing,
I think 70.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing, they never won a championship, which was kind of a mystery to me because he was such a great big man. But they were good, but they just never raised a trophy or put a ring on. But this is cool. And I think the most unique thing, this does not look like a world championship team on paper. But boy, the way they play together on the floor, I mean, it's Brunson and it's Karl Anthony Towns, and it is a bench bunch that has really grown together under Mike Brown. This is a really dangerous team. This might be a one and done. This might be the only time they do it. But what a really great franchise. I mean, at this point, the way they're playing, they could win this thing. And on the other side, San Antonio is just going through a learning curve, John. I mean, Wembanyama has been MIA way too much for me. I don't like how they're running their offense. He needs to be positioned down low, run the offense from inside out. They do have great three-point shooters, but Wemby's got to be inside making other things happen, and I don't see that consistently. And now, I will say this, when he's had bad games, he's come back. He have a bad game, he scored 32. Have a bad game, he scored 42. So we'll see if he comes back at the Garden tonight. But if they go down 3-0 to Captain Clutch, over.
Yeah, I mean, this is something if the Knicks can run the table in the playoffs, and they're just 2 wins away.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Big John Silva. He goes, okay, I got to ask, which relief pitcher makes you cringe when they announce that they're warming up in the bullpen? For me, it's Wandy Peralta.
Well, he's a workhorse. He gives you a lot of quality innings. Does he have some bad outings? Yeah, but he eats up innings. Their problem is not the bullpen, although Mason Miller has become a bit of an experience, John, because what we saw early, we're not seeing the same right now. I mean, they're getting around on his fastball. His control is a little bit off from what we saw the first group of games that he pitched. But there's no problem with the setup guy. The whole problem is the fractured rotation. And Michael King's pitching his guts out, but he doesn't get a lot of run support. And he's really a 6-inning starter more than he is anything else. Randy Vasquez has really regressed. John, his last 4 starts have not been good. I think the number I had, I figured I wrote about it this morning. I think in the last 19 innings, he's given up 14 runs, ton of base runners. He's given up 6 home runs. So, Randy Vasquez is not what he was early on, so maybe they've kind of figured him out a little bit. And Walker Buehler pitches with great intensity, but, that's That's a start-to-start thing with him. Marquez looks like he's about ready to come back, but that's a start-to-start thing. Giolito's going to pitch, but that's an inning-by-inning thing as to whether he's going to walk the house and give up home runs, because historically that's what he's always done. They just don't have enough pitching at this point. So you got a fractured starting rotation, which is a problem, and you got a very inefficient batting order, almost top to bottom, which is a bigger problem.
Well, AJ gave the 4-year deal to Wandy Peralta, so this is might be more heat on AJ. But I agree with Big John here. I mean, when Peralta comes in, it's usually when the Padres are trailing, and he's had moments when he's been pretty damn good, but for the most part, he's not been very effective. So, yeah, I can't really even think of any bright spot with this team anywhere other than maybe, Freddie Fermin having 2 home runs on back-to-back games.
Yeah, but that's at bats from a guy hitting 136. Come on, let's be realistic.
I know. You got to really reach for any good news.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, when you get done, you pull up their schedule after they finish this 3-game series with a badly banged-up Cincinnati Reds team. They go away forever. They have a stretch where they play 16 road games in 19 games, and they still have the red-hot Atlanta Braves, who have the best record in baseball, and the Dodgers back-to-back. We're going to get to July 4th weekend, and oh my goodness, they could be in such dire straits by then.
Brutal. It's brutally. Hey, can we fit one more in? Got some NFL talk here in San Diego from Batfan. Hacksaw, if San Diego were to be considered for an NFL team, would Snapdragon need to be expanded or remodeled? Not would a new 50,000-seat stadium need to be built?
Well, you'd have to build a new stadium because Snapdragon does not have all the accoutrements that they need in terms of skyboxes, etc. Sadly, one of the proposals when this whole thing was being voted on was Soccer City had a proposal to build a soccer stadium for San Diego State to play in and keep the land on the edge of a Qualcomm site for somebody to come in and build an NFL stadium. That got voted down, and we wound up with San Diego State on a different ballot, getting all the land and the right to do all the construction for dorms and office buildings and all that, plus build Snapdragon. So I don't think we're ever going to see an NFL team back here in our modern lifetime because, A, you got to build it, B, we're going to build it, C, who's going to pay for it, and then D, somebody get an expansion team, you're going to move somebody here, and the cost factor to me is ungodly. And it's sad because this was a great NFL city, very much supported. Okay, go ahead.
No, just real quick. It's interesting how the Browns lost their team, or Cleveland lost a team, but then they got an expansion. But to your point, I don't see the Chargers or really San Diego ever getting an NFL team again.
I concur with you, sadly, because the Bolts meant a lot to our community, and they were so well supported through a lot of bad times and some very special times. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. Do us a favor. Want you to tell everybody who we are. We're here Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to give us a thumbs up, hit the follow button, give us a 5-star rating. Check my website. Get on the Hacksaw Insiders email list so you can get the 2 newsletters per day in your inbox. We're going to be back here Thursday. We're going to preview the start of the World Cup. And, of course, we'll talk more baseball, NFL, and a lot more to talk about the NBA and the NHL. Why? Because we do sports talk the way it should be done, and we're glad you really enjoy it. John, enjoy a couple of days off. We'll talk to you come Thursday.
Come Thursday, Lee, when the World Cup starts.
And this podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. Go to DIXIELINE.com. Find out what they have to offer the guy in your house for Father's Day. And thank you for being with us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.